Well, hey, good morning, all of you on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you in the center and east of our awesome country. I am Tony Gapistone, and I am one of the co-pastors of The Quest. Today is a special gathering here online. Many of you know that I am also a filmmaker as well as my pastoral duties. And so I love when I get to combine my love of film with my love of the church and theology and how we can make the world better, and talk about how we can be better humans, how we can more model a life that is modeled after the love and kindness and compassion, restoration and healing of Jesus Christ. This is really cool that we get to have a special day like we get to have today. So The Quest, welcome online, wherever you are watching from. We always love when people say hello to wherever they are. So good morning to everybody who's already jumped on live. I love watching the numbers go up. So thank you everybody for joining. So great to have you. The whole staff is off today, so it's just me. Since we did Easter last week, we said, you know what, let's take some time off. So there's people chilling and resting. I think other staff might be watching today, but I said I can do the whole thing. I'll do all the switching and the producing and the hosting live here with our special guests. And it's worth it because this is going to be a really fantastic conversation. So whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching on the Facebook page, please say hello, and we will get to some great questions. People from Minnesota chiming in, Oklahoma. Thank you, everybody, for saying hello. We are going to have a fantastic conversation today. Now, today, our assumption is you got to watch the free documentary, the screening of the film, Bobbi Jo Under the Influence. If you did not, no worries. You still will have a couple hours to watch it after our conversation free, or you can rent it on all the platforms. We're going to talk about that today. We're very, very excited for you to meet Bobbi Jo and her filmmaker, Brent Jones, today. So before we jump in and welcome the filmmaker and subject of the documentary, I'm going to show you the trailer of the film because this is, you might have watched it on Thursday, or maybe you watched it last night like I did for the second time, but we want this to be fresh in your mind what this whole story is about. So I'm going to share the trailer with you. So turn up your headphones or your computer sound, and let's check out the Bobbi Jo Under the Influence trailer. Here we go.
There's a lot of hurting people out here. Social workers feel helpless. Case managers are overwhelmed with cases. And then you got the police, and you're dealing with 1,000 people out here on the streets. There's nobody to help them. But now they see this person, right, who cared enough and was willing to do something.
Helping these people is everything to me.
She is directly responsible for me being alive.
I live and breathe to serve you. Some people think I'm just this rich lady that decided to start helping people. It was nothing like that at all. I couldn't imagine my life without alcohol.
Been on the street and left for trash.
I lived under the boxcar. I just lost hope, you know? See, when you're out there in the streets, it's a whole different world.
It's a miracle that she even made it out of that alive.
I became a different person.
When her mama passed, her mama gave her a house.
And then God said, great job. Now sell it and move to the hood.
She said, I bought a house. You got to come see it.
I was going to help about 10 women stay sober every year. God had much bigger plans.
She's steady buying houses. Steady buying houses.
The growth is overwhelming.
It's about creating a home-like atmosphere and love and compassion. That's what it's about.
When she told me welcome home, I just knew that it was all going to be okay.
Whatever you have a compassion for, that's not a job. That's a calling.
How on earth did this all happen?
Wow, what a great quote. Whenever you think about your passion, it's not a job, it's a calling. I love that. So with no further ado, let's bring on Bobbi Jo Reed, the featured subject of the documentary, and her filmmaker, documentarian, Brent Jones. Welcome to our conversation today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So you both are in Kansas City, Missouri today. I'd love to just have you both share a little bit about how in the world this came to be. Brent, how did you find this dynamic force to be reckoned with? And Bobbi Jo, I want to hear all about what it felt like to have a camera in your face 24/7. Let's chat about that. How did he find you, Bobbi Jo? How about that?
I went to go speak at a meeting at a church, and Brent was there, and he came up to me afterwards and said, I think we want to do something together. And then the next thing he did, he said, well, I'm going to come down and check it out. And so he came a few days later, and he came with the whole film crew. And I'm like, dude, you should have told me this. I would have looked a lot cuter today. And so that's how it kind of kicked off. And then he said, once he watched the video they took that day, he was like, I'm in. You got a good presence on camera. So Brent?
Yeah, I mean, she just listen. When you meet Bobbi Jo, when you hear her story, you know, there's a reason she does what she does. You're drawn in, and you're like, you want to be around her more, and you want to find out what's going on. You say, I needed to find out what was going on with her, and how she had this spirit and zest for life, and just you know, I knew that it would come off on camera. That's why I showed up with cameras. I was like, listen, I know that I just had to prove it. You know, once you put somebody on camera, you find out whether they have that quality. And she just had it. I came back. We went down there for 3 hours and shot her running around the pink house and her first houses. And she was just so full of life. When on the drive back, I was talking to my cameraman, and I just said, that was amazing. You know, this is amazing. This woman's amazing. And then we went into that editing room and cut her together. And we cut together a 3-minute piece that was very, very powerful, that was emotional. And it was like, we've got to explore this more. And we've got to I called Bobbi Jo and I said, listen, let's do this thing. I'm going to be hanging out with you for a while. And so we hung out for a year. And I got to know her really, really well. I got to be a part of the family down there. And it's been a special time over the past year and a half working on this project, just because of the people I got to be around. I mean, if you've watched the film, I was fortunate enough to hang out with wonderful people for a long time, and I learned an enormous amount. So, but this film is really close to my heart, and it means a whole lot to me. So does everybody in it, you know, which is something which is different than the other filmmaking that I've done.
It's pretty powerful. You know, as someone who's a pastor and also a filmmaker, I am always in awe of how powerful stories can be to change our lives. You know, people will often negate the work of artists by saying things like, "Oh, we're not curing cancer," or "We're not, bringing clean water to, developing countries." But at the same time, when we hear stories about how cancer affects people, we hear stories about people who are living with unclean water, it motivates us into action. And so I think about, Bobbi Jo, your story. You have survived an incredible amount of pain, and I always, I watched your story twice, and I just, as you were. By the way, you're an amazing storyteller. Probably one reason why Brent got in touch with you. You are an amazing storyteller. You share transparently, authentically, vulnerably. You've been through so much, and you've risen up from there to now give back and help change. I guess part of my question is, when you think about your story and you think about the impact that you're having today, and for those who don't know, maybe who didn't get a chance to watch it yet, can you share a little bit about some of your journey and where it's come from. This film was made in 2019 and 2020. And so you've gone through a pandemic, but you were basically changing Kansas City, Missouri, and you're bringing hope to the recovery community, which we as a church have a huge heart for. So can you talk a little bit about, your story and how it came to be and, where you are today? Did you ever think you were going to be where you are today? Anything else you want to say about that?
No, when you're out there, and I ended up in the streets and homeless and being trafficked, and you just, unfortunately, everything becomes okay because you think, oh, this is just how it is, and you adapt to it. And it was horrific, scary, horrific. I was in my addiction for 22 years, and I never thought I could live a life without drugs or alcohol. And I tell you, my dad died, and I got to treatment a month later, and I have been sober ever since. And then I started going down to the treatment center and helping other people, and I never felt like I was worth anything my whole life. And so when I started taking baked goods and hanging out at the detox and talking to people, I seen that it gave them hope. One girl would tell you that I saved her life with the chocolate chip cookie because she was all beat up. She was in detox, and I went in. I had leftover baked goods with hygiene products and baked goods, and I sat on her bed and I talked to her, and it changed her life. And so I started seeing, at first I did it just because it felt good. And then I kept doing it because it just became the right thing to do. And, at 3.5 years in my sobriety, my mom passed away on December 30th. And I was lost. I found myself all alone. All my roommates had relapsed. And that night, we'd started going to a church, but I went to the church because my crackhead boyfriend went to this church, and I kicked him out. And none of those church women were going to get my crackhead, right? I had a lot of time invested. So he would say things like, we're not equally yoked. And I thought I should have said, we're not. You're a crackhead, and I'm not. But anyway, I got my little red mini dress on and went to the church. And God knew what it would take to get me there. And then once he got me there, but my mom died on December 30th. I had to go out and get an urn for her ashes on December 31st. And I came home, and I went to our church, and my boyfriend wasn't there. And I came home, and I just started crying out to God and saying, please don't let me go back to where I came from. But I don't know how to go forward either. And I fell asleep praying and crying. And I'll tell you what, the next morning when I woke up, fear had covered my whole life. But when I woke up January 1st of 1999, he took control of me. The Holy Spirit took up residence in me. And I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but that night when I was begging him, he got a hold of my life, and he's directed my steps from that time forward. I could never imagine I could be where I'm at today. When I said, how did this all happen? I mean that, because I just kept doing the work. And when you're busy doing the work, you don't keep count of, okay, this, and this. And we were having an open house, and I had the girls put a booklet together. And that's the first time it all dawned on me. I'm going through this. It's a booklet of the houses. And I'm like, wow. And I tell you what, I've just been led by the Holy Spirit the whole time. And of course, my board of directors don't always like, they're like, how are we going to do that? We don't have any money. I'm like, but God has all the money in the world.
What's the business plan here, Bobbi Jo?
It's all God. That's what the business plan is.
I love it. So that's it. Let's talk about the title of the documentary is called Bobbi Jo Under the Influence. I like that double meaning where, someone who has found themselves in a life of addiction and substances is now under the influence of God and the Holy Spirit. Brent, now, did you have a faith connection or did you stumble upon, how did this all, for you navigating the thread of the telling the story and working with Bobbi Jo, someone who's just living her life, but you're putting cameras in her face. Talk about that. Talk about everything from finding the title and weaving all of the pieces together. And things were happening in real time, right? People coming into these recovery homes. And if you haven't seen the film yet, Bobbi Jo has basically transformed her little space in Kansas City, Missouri, because of her own need for recovery. She started homes and used her own house and bought homes and transferred, transformed people's lives in community. So talk about that from your standpoint, Brent, how that went for you, weaving all these things together.
Well, I mean, I just have to say that I'm always searching. You know, I'm always searching for meaning, and I'm always searching for truth. And I really found it there. I mean, there's a thing in recovery. I'm a person in recovery as well, and so that's why I was attracted to this story. And there's a catchphrase that says "Let go and let God." And to be quite truthful, I let go, let God propel me to do whatever. You know, I've always been a person in film. You try to control things and you try to make things happen, and I really kind of just let myself go and follow this story and document it and meet with people. And I had questions for them based on my experience in recovery. And I think that's what allowed me to explore, because I knew what a lot of them have been through. And I just kind of let it happen. You know, I didn't force it too much. And that's why it took a little bit of time. And, you know, I went in and I met people and I let them tell me their story. And, you know, I had a basic outline going in for a story, and I wanted to follow Bobbi Jo's testimony and then and then I knew I had to incorporate some steps to recovery, which are the 12 steps. And that basically became the foundation and the you know, the script. You know, there was a loose script based on Bobbi Jo's testimony and the 12 steps and all the steps to recovery. So I really wanted to go after those. And I wanted to go out and get those personal stories and how can we help people recover? And, you know, I had to use her experience and other people's experiences with their addiction to help other people. I mean, that's how it works. You know, once you find recovery, the deal is you got to pass it on in order to keep it, you know? And that's what I did here. I was just led there. I mean, I moved back to Kansas City 3.5 years ago. I found Bobbi Jo about 2 years after I lived here, or 1.5 years after I lived here. And then I was going to do a lot of other things, and I just had to go do this. I had to get down there and meet these people and tell this story. And it just evolved, and a lot of hard work. A lot of outside help. My wife's not here, but she was executive producer, and she's very good at assembling things and putting things together. And we weave the story together with our editors in our basement. You know, basically went down there with 2 or 3 photographers and our cinematographers, and covered interviews, and then we covered people's lives and started putting it together in our basement. And I mean, I could go into how filmmaking's done, but it's more about, I follow my heart. You know, I really follow my heart. I follow Bobbi Jo's lead. I mean, I think Bobbi Jo was given a second chance, and God told her, I need you to do this. And she followed her heart. And I saw what she was able to accomplish by following her heart. And I went, well, man, you know, when I find people like Bobbi Jo, I want to do what they do. You want to find out what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I truly believe she's doing it to help other people and to stay in doing God's work. And so I wanted to do that exact same thing. And I'll tell you what, I've never been happier. You know, I mean, I've had some really, really good times raising my kids and all that. Those are happy times. Those compare to this. You know, it's just about finding that freedom. And you know, you're doing the next right thing. Bobbi Jo says that. So I was just doing the next right thing as well. I was going out and helping some other people. You know, I've been given a second chance too in this life. And when you find that and things start falling together for you, you go, you know, I got it. People told me early on that helped me. I'm going to help you out here. But once the promises start coming true for you, you're going to have to turn around and help some other people. And to me, I've learned that that's the way I have to live the rest of my life, one day at a time. And
Helping other people. Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more rewarding. I mean, I work with young men, and I've seen them lost and broken into puzzle pieces on just scattered and shattered and scared coming out of their addiction. And then you watch them slowly put those pieces back together, you know, I mean, and you help them, but they're the ones that are putting those pieces back together, and they need that guidance. And when you see them put those pieces back together and start getting their life back, it's like sunshine, man. It's there's nothing like it. I believe it's what we're all supposed to be doing. So, the goal for the film was to say, you know what, guys, everybody, check this out. Look what Bobbi Jo has done, and how she's living her life, and how she's helping people, and how she's changed the whole community. The whole community is changing. And isn't that how we're supposed to live? We're supposed to strengthen our communities and help those who need a hand up. I mean, that's the whole point of the film. And it's like, when people watch it, my favorite thing is they say at the end, you know, I got to do more. I want to do more. And they feel compelled. That's what I want to get. I want people to feel compelled to do more like that. And we just saw Mama Judy there. It inspires people. I want to inspire people to do what I see Bobbi Jo doing, you know?
And I want to share something with you. Yeah. So year before last, we always have baptisms in our pool. And I accidentally brought some water back from the Jordan River when I went to the Holy Land. Well, I smuggled it back. I figured God would forgive me for that. So every year when we have this baptism, anywhere from 80 to 100 people get baptized. And so I put some of that Jordan River water in there. And I tell them, you're being baptized in the same water that Jesus was baptized in. And, you know, Brent was down and he was filming the baptism. And I was honored when he asked if I would baptize him. And I just think, you know, God is so good that this was going on, and Brent felt led to, you know, lay it down. And I sometimes when he's trying to take control of stuff, I tell him, you should have been a double dunk, buddy.
Stay under there a little bit longer sometimes. Yeah. Let me up. I want to talk a little bit about the recovery communities and the church, because pre-pandemic, I was super proud. Our building was used at least 4 or 5 times a week for recovery meetings. In fact, our building was used more for the recovery community than it was just for our gathering of the church community. But there's something to be said about the recovery community is the church. And people have said, why can't the church be more like the recovery community? Maybe we'd see more lives changed if there was more authenticity and vulnerability, and not just people coming to a building all dressed up for an hour to feel good and then leave and then forget all those things and not have the connection. So let's talk about what you're doing, like the specific work. And I appreciate, Brent, you're talking about wanting to inspire people to do this kind of work. Bobbi Jo, how many homes do you have in buildings, and what's happening? And kind of talk a little bit about that vision, that Holy Spirit under the influence business plan to change lives in Kansas City over there.
Well, when I first got sober, I figured out there were 900 women going through treatment in our city with less than 30 safe beds. So God gave me that mission because these women didn't have children. And so the world wasn't that kind to them. It was more like, you know what, you made your bed, lay in it. And I hated that. And I was a single woman. And I thought, and really how this all worked, I bought the first home. It was an old nursing home, and I lived there with the girls for 12 years. And what we did is I was able to create the family that I had always wanted. And it was amazing. I mean, we were having church together. We were having meetings. We'd have morning meditation together, start our day off and sing praise and worship songs. And we really became this family. We took turns, you know, eating meals together and things like that. And so we became a recovery family. And now we have a recovery community center. And that means they have morning meditation every day. I have an employment specialist there. I have a director, I have a resource person, and we have a trauma-informed care counselors, because everybody coming in has experienced trauma. That's just the truth. And so, and the family just kept growing. And so we were able to get a Jehovah's Witness church a few years back, and they weren't in the building very often, but I kept leaving notes and letters in the front door. I figured, you know, stalking them was okay. Turnabout's fair play. So sorry if there's any Jehovah's Witness out there, but that's just the truth. I stalked those people.
Knock, 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 knock.
So I did the same thing to them, and finally they cracked under pressure, and we were able to get it. So that sanctuary in that church held 280 people. And so what we did is we turned that into our administrative building, and then we still had meetings and different things in the sanctuary part. This is Wesley House. So it really went, and I tell you what, I did not plan to get multiple homes. You know, I had a dope dealer living right next door to me, and I knew the dope man couldn't be next door when people were on the other side of the driveway trying to stay clean and sober. And so I was just like, you know what? I said, first I called the police a couple of times, and they did nothing. So then I called on the one that can do all. I called on Jesus, and I said, Jesus, please give me that house. Lord, make a way for me. And he did a year and a half later. So we got that place, and then we were running out of space. People kept coming, and we never advertised. People used to tell me, you're the best kept secret in town. And you know, we don't need to publicize. Everybody knows where we're at and what we're doing. And so I've had tricks, girls that are prostituting their tricks, bring them to my driveway and drop them off and say, you need to go in there. You know, we go any measure, and it's just continued to grow. And I got a house down in an even worse area, a couple blocks away. And, I knew it couldn't be a women's home because there were a lot of drunk men over in this apartment building, and they were hooting and hollering at me. So I said, man, those guys are pretty hard up. I can't put any women down here. So I knew that day that was going to be the first men's home. And so I got to tell you, now don't get mad, Tony and Brent, but the men are much more complicated than the women ever were.
Not surprising. Not surprising.
When a man gets sick and he's like, oh, when you really get sick and you just feel like that's what our men, they're coming in sick and they're broken. And I'm like, man, these men are a pain in the tail. But God said,
sorry, ladies. Sorry, it's true. It's true.
God told me to keep on moving, so I kept going. Now we have 14 homes. We have a admin building. We have so we use the sanctuary now for people to attend treatment because they don't go in person. So they do it. We have separation and headphones, and so they can attend treatment. I mean, we have a grant writer. We just, it's unbelievable. We have 42 employees now, and wow. And 39 of the 42 have came through our program. Wow. So they get this spirit of helping. I mean, it's contagious. And so when they grab onto that, they're like, I want to work here too. I want to do this. And we just continue to expand. I got to tell you, we got a recovery community center, and on the other side of the fence from the smoking patio, there was a tattoo shop backed up to that. And the guys were always out there getting high. And I said, you guys, come on. Everybody's trying to stay clean over here. Please stop. And they're like, whatever, lady, you can't control us. So then I was able to get the strip mall. So now they're my renters. And so first thing I did in their new contract was there's no illegal drug use in or around their property. And that's part of their lease. If they do it, they're gone.
They're gone.
And we're redoing the whole strip mall. It's just amazing what's happened. And
that's awesome. Oh my gosh.
I'm very blessed. Yeah, I got
blessed.
I got a men's home that has 40 men in it. And I ran that for 8 months.
So cool.
It was difficult, but you know what? The guys love me. And people call me mom, and it's not a mandatory thing. And some people say, "You're not my mom." I'm like, "Okay, honey, whatever." And so within 2 weeks, people are calling me mom. It's kind of an automatic thing because I'm the recovery mom to them. And I love them, and they all know it. I do love them.
That's beautiful. Tell those guys just to ink people up and not get them all high. Just share the tattoo love. Come on.
There you go.
Tattoos for Jesus. I love it.
Yes.
Well, anybody who's watching live, please feel free to throw a question in. There's lots of comments about the amazing work and just to think about all the homes, the things that you have created, the space, the safety, the vulnerability, the opportunities for recovery. But I also am really inspired by the fact that you're creating jobs, you're creating sustainability for people. As a pastor, that's something I always have wondered about, like why the church why we wouldn't be doing more sustainability things like that, like helping empower businesses in this climate with all the racial justice. I've heard a call to arms for the church to empower Black businesses, and I really love that. And we have a little building in Marin County, which is Northern California, right across the Golden Gate Bridge. We have a little building that we're headquartered in. We have about 80 people when we're open and allowed to meet that meet in that building. But because of pandemic, we've gotten people from all over the place. It's so great. We've got people in Colorado, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Florida, seeing all of you in the comments. It's so great. But we're kind of at the precipice of wondering what will be our next move. What's our next story that God is going to write for us? And so I wonder, maybe for both of you, to talk about this. One thing I hear you saying a lot, Bobbi Jo, is you're hearing from God. God is speaking to you. I love that. Brent, as a fellow filmmaker, I've always wondered about how and when the church could utilize more visual storytelling and film. I'd love to have both of you speak about the power that we have to impact culture and change communities, create jobs. Like what you think and tell to us as the church to consider what our next steps could be. How could we change our community? What things do we need to be aware of and thinking? Or what questions can we be asking?
Okay, people don't want to go to church a lot of times because, well, I don't mean that bad. They don't want to go to church because they don't think they're worthy of a relationship with God. And sometimes they've been judged harshly going to church. And so we give this platform of it's recovery, but we all go to church as a family, and it's really a family unit. And what I've seen, this was crime riddled when I got down here. I mean, you would hear gunshots every 3 hours, nonstop. AK-47s, pimps, prostitutes, drug dealers, gang members on all up and down the street. And you know what? When God brings the light in, the darkness has to flee. And because light and dark don't mix, right? And so what's happened is us being here and the presence and the impact that it's made in this community, people feel safe now to walk up and down the street. I've had women come to me and say, thank God your men's home is there, because if anybody tries to do anything to me, I know those guys will help me. And we become assets in the community. And now that the housing market down here is quadrupled. So I've almost worked myself out of business, but thank God the community is so great. And then, God does talk to me, not audibly, but God speaks to my heart and he tells me what's next. Since that night that I cried out to him, he has led the way. All the way. And so he speaks to my heart and he shows me, it's not just about bring people in and give them a safe place and food and shelter. There's more than that. You got to give people love. You got to teach them how to live again. You got to see what their hobbies are. You got to see them. And Jesus meets us where we're at. Jesus said he came for the tax collectors and the prostitutes and all those. So we're his pick, right? And we're people that have lived an entire different life. And now with Jesus, we live this life that's so incredibly good. You can't make it up. And then in doing so, God said, okay, Yes, we need this. Now we need family atmosphere. We do family events, fireworks, camping, barbecues, picnics. We do everything together. And so we go to sobriety dances. So through that, I've seen what's next. And one of the things were employment and training people up. Me and a friend of mine wrote a faith-based recovery housing manual. And it's really good because it trains people how to be leaders in the recovery and Christian. And so, you know what? I have just followed this and to employ a lot of people. And we're steady. The strip mall, we're putting in a spa and a beauty shop. And the women in this area that come from Chillicothe prison are trained up in cosmetology and nail techs. So they're going to come in. They got a safe place to live out of prison. And now they have their own little booth where they can build up their business and they can go from there. We're going to put a laundromat in. We're going to put a cafe and a coffee shop, bakery. And when I say this, I'm not saying it just blowing smoke. God told me this is what's going to happen. And so I count on that, 100% count on it. And I just let him lead the way. And, I do some trainings and everybody puts up their doctor of something, PhD. So on my presentations, I put PhD of reality. So my life's a ball.
It's so cool, so beautiful. There was a question that you saw about how does this vision, with recovery compare to other organizations do, but it sounds like you are just offering a very full plate of opportunities. It's not just one thing where you come and sit and talk and get a sponsor. It's this and this and this and this and this. It's really, this is a true community in every sense of the word. It's sharing life together. It's working together. It's keeping our community safe. Wow, what a vision for that. May us, as all the churches who are watching this and people of faith, find ways to do this. This is what I think the Holy Spirit has been crying out to us for so many centuries to do, is that like the church is so much more than just sitting in a building on a Sunday. And for the quest, I do think we get this, but there's always more. What else can we do? How can we use our resources in our building? And as we come back into the new normal, what does that look like for us? What is God saying? Brent, do you want to add anything to that?
I would just say that, what I see working at the Healing House is that people in recovery are able to trust the people that are helping them. I mean, they have an enormous amount of trust, and because they see people who have been through the same things that they've been through. They've walked in the people that are like Bobbi Jo is able to touch the women because she's been through what they've been through. She says, "Oh no, honey, no, I understand. I've been through what you've been through." And a person in recovery can help another person in recovery, I think, and have greater success than someone who's trying to help someone in recovery who is not in recovery, because the person that is trying to recover isn't going to have as much trust for the person helping them if they haven't been through what they've been through. So and I saw that working at the Healing House. I saw the people that are around Bobbi Jo that are working on the staff have all been through these things. They've all found recovery through the Healing House, and they're all giving back. And so you can feel that energy. You can feel that you're in a safe place. You're not being judged. And you're not being, they walk in there with a whole lot of shame, and you're not given more. Actually, you're given the tools to let go of that shame and that guilt that you carry when you walk in. And that's from the movie, but that's true. They're not being judged. They're being accepted. They're being understood. That's beautiful. So you be acceptance and understanding from the church. That's what people need. They need that love. And so they need to go, listen, I understand you, and I accept you, and I love you, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to be able to change your life. And once somebody in recovery believes that, they can start believing in themselves, and it goes. So there's this thing that goes back and forth, in the community, and I believe that's trust and love.
Yes.
I think what also comes to mind too is sometimes in church spaces, there's so much emphasis put on one or two people, usually one person, the pastor, right? The pastor is the one who does all the work, right? And everybody needs him or her to meet with. You know, the pastor gets burnt out in many cases doing all of the things, as opposed to saying, no, all of us together, you have the Holy Spirit in you too. We together can do this. And so what I love is I think you're painting a different picture of what I hope we all can see is the church. We all have the power to help one another. We all have the power to give back. It's not just somebody with a PhD or a theology degree or a pulpit. Anybody can change the world. Anybody can take their story, share their story, and do some good. I love it. I want to pull up this question here for you, Bobbi Jo. In the film, when you started getting closer to your dad, you started to transition into a sobriety. What started this process?
Well, my dad, we didn't know it, but my dad was sick. He had retired after 37 years on the police department, and they did back surgery. And then on his birthday, 61st birthday, the day after his birthday, my mom found him downstairs dead. And so I was still in my addiction during that. But it's like I always used to say, you know, my dad was my guardian angel because I tried to drink myself to death for 2 months, and I didn't hardly eat ever. I drank every moment I could. My mom called me over that day and she said, you know, I got there and of course I bought a big jug of whiskey with me. And Mom said, please, please, please don't get drunk and disgrace your dad's memory. And so she called her doctor and got 110 milligram Valium. So I wouldn't reek of alcohol, but I stayed calmed down. And I decided at that point, I'm going to get sober and make my dad really proud of me. And I was at home 24 hours before I popped the top on that whiskey and off again. And I really wanted to die. My dad was always my hero, but I never had that close relationship with him. And I have a mom that's emotionally unstable, but you know, she was a hoarder. And from the outside, we looked okay, right? But inside, it was a different story. And I know my brother told me, you know, don't you think this might be embarrassing to the family? And I said, you know what? We've lived a lie our whole lives, and I'm not willing to live a lie anymore. And if our story or my story can help one single person, I'm going to share it, and it's going to be real. Because we have to share honestly. Everybody, you know, for so many years, people think, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody that my daughter or my son's an addict. My mom told her friends for years, Sissy just has the darndest luck. Her car got wrecked again. No, I was drunk driving. And then she'd tell people, Sissy's got the flu again. I had alcohol poisoning. It's not the flu. And I mean, so it was embarrassing to them to have an addicted child. And my family thought if we don't talk about it, it'll just go away or doesn't exist. And that doesn't work. And if you have a loved one that has an addiction, it's not lack of moral fiber. It's not weakness. You know, at first, we're making choices to drink or drug. And then when we cross over to the addiction side, our brain chemistry changes. And then we lose the power of choice. And so instead of looking at your loved one like, you know, that they're an embarrassment to your family, look at them as they have a disease of addiction, and it needs treated like heart disease or diabetes or any other disease. And so we've kind of here at the Healing House, we found a way to treat the disease with recovery, fellowship, and God. And it works. I mean, it's incredible. So my men's houses are all full. So the other day, we had men coming from prison, and there was no way that I was going to ask anybody to leave. So I got a hunting lodge on the top floor of my house. So I have 3 guys that all work for the ministry that came to live upstairs in my house. And they're good kids. They take out my trash. We hang out together. They're good guys. and they're for prison. 2 of them are for prison. And I don't fear. I've never feared, not one day have I feared living in this community or doing the work I do. I got back from the Holy Land, and a house right across the street was slinging dope big time. And I mean, it was every 10, 15 minutes. So I said, okay, I got to do something. So I walked over to the dope man's house and knocked on the door. And I said, I'm the lady that runs these recovery houses, but I got to tell you, I had the same life as you for a long time. You're a young man. I don't want to see you go to prison forever. And I said, I just came back from the neighborhood association meeting, and the cops had pictures of you selling dope. They know. And I just don't want to see you go to prison forever. Do you know the dope man was gone within 3 hours? There was no neighborhood association. Well, there was, but everyone said nothing about him. And so, it might have not been the by the book way, but it was effective. Because it takes years for them to get enough cases on somebody to get them out of your community. I figured we'll just tell this little fib and we'll get you out of here now. And it worked.
A fib in Jesus' name. I love it.
Yes,
that's good.
Amen.
One quick question that someone was asking is, how do you take care of yourself to keep going? You seem to do a lot. How do you not burn out? What do you do to make sure you keep going, Bobbi Jo?
I read my Bible every day. I go to church. I'm surrounded with other believers. And I got to tell you, I'm like a little Energizer bunny. The Holy Spirit just fills me up, and I just have to go. And that's my life. And I'm good with it, because every day that I serve him to the fullest is a day that people get help and people get inspired and their life starts changing. So, it doesn't take a lot for me. I read the Bible 15, 20 minutes up in my bedroom, take a shower and chill out. And I got to say, I do watch Investigate Discovery.
Is that a reality show? Okay. Well, that makes sense that you would be into shows like that.
They used to have this show called Snapped, and I would watch it. Judy said, "Why are you watching that?" And it's about people just snapping out and killing somebody. And so I'm like, Judy, I'm doing this to keep you safe in case anybody comes to us that has had a grandmother that they took out of the world. I'm protecting you. She's like, no, you're not.
Your friendship is so sweet. Yeah.
Oh, I loved Judy so much. She came to me. She came to me 9 months after I started, and we became best friends, faithful friends, kindred spirits. And she had been lived at the Pink House with me with the girls for 12 years, and then we got our own little home. And no, it's not a little home. We got a big home, and I was honored to care for her when she got sick. We found out the day after Christmas she had pancreatic and liver cancer. Mm-hmm. And I was so blessed that to trust the people that work here so much that I could step into this role and care for my buddy. And I was holding her hand when she passed and went home. I got to say, I still tear up because I've never known that kind of love from anybody else in my life. Not my mom, not my dad. It was a pure love. We were best friends. We laughed every evening talking about crazy stuff, because you have to have laughter in the midst of all the trauma that we deal with. Wow. And I had to move her chair. We were like two old ladies. We had two recliners on each side of the room so we could watch TV together. And I had to move her recliner because it's just such a habit to look over. And but I tell you, she's with me every single day, and I've never found a love as precious as hers.
So if you have not watched Bobbi Jo Under the Influence, you must go watch it now. You still have a few hours with the link that was provided to us. Thank you to my friend Ryan Parker from WIT PR for hooking us up, Bobbi Jo and Brent, as a filmmaker and the founder of Brave Maker, the nonprofit organization that does the film screenings. Ryan has been a great partner and asset to a lot of the work that we do. So you will find out obviously more about Bobbi Jo, but you'll also see this beautiful friendship that she's talking about and her friend Judy. And as I watched it, it felt like I was watching, you know, someone in my family, like two sisters, two aunties of mine, and you definitely had something beautiful that I think can only sometimes be found in people who have shared struggles and shared acceptance, and really that elevated to me the power of what I think God designs and hopes for us. So we have about 10 more minutes left. If anybody has any questions, we will grab those. I would like to quickly share something from a friend of mine who works for an organization called the Bay Area Anti-Trafficking Coalition. Part of Bobbi Jo's story is just devastating and tragic and traumatic, like she said. Part of it was the circumstances that she found herself in, the abuse, the manipulation, the prostitution. And I want to share with you my friend who runs the Bay Area Anti-Trafficking Coalition. His name is Brian Woe. I will put the link to his organization in the chat. Questers may recognize he came to speak to us pre-COVID in our building. But I sent to him Bobbi Jo's film, and he said, oh, I definitely want to come and talk live and meet Bobbi Jo. And it turned out he wasn't able to make it today, but he shared a personal video that he wanted to share with you all. So I'm going to share that video now.
Hey, everybody. Brian Woe from the Bay Area Anti-Trafficking Coalition here, or the BAATC. Anytime we get to do something with Tony Gapistone and Brave Maker, we're super pumped about it. Tony has been a key partner in our fight against human trafficking over the years, and we love it how he has stepped into his unique artistic voice through filmmaking to spread awareness that human trafficking is a crime that happens right here in our neighborhoods all over the Bay Area. I just watched the film about Bobbi Jo, and I'm a huge fan now. I looked at I opened the link and saw how long the movie was, and I thought, well, I'll watch this in a few snippets over the next couple of days. But I started watching, and I couldn't turn it off. So I watched the whole thing in one sitting, and one of the inspirational things I think about this film is that we see Bobbi Jo living into her unique gifts and passions and her experiences to really make a difference in people's lives. And that's one thing we say when we talk about human trafficking, is that you don't have to be a social worker, you don't have to be an attorney to make a difference. You can be an artist, you can be a homemaker, you can be a teacher, you can be an engineer. And you can make a difference in bringing awareness to people about human trafficking, and you can make a contribution, and you can make a unique contribution. We can't all be Bobbi Jo, but we can all be who we are in the places where we work and live, and we can make a difference. And then another thing that's great about the film is just that it really reveals the intersectionality of a lot of different issues. So when we talk about human trafficking, we can't just silo it into its own little issue that we attack by itself. Trafficking is related to the vulnerabilities that are caused by homelessness, by drug abuse, or any type of substance abuse, by poverty, by broken family systems. These all play a part, and they all intersect in creating situations where people are vulnerable to exploitation, whether that's trafficking or some other type of criminal activity, or just any type of injustice. And so it's important that we understand the complexities of these issues and how we can step up to tackle one at a time or tackle them in combination. But it's something that we really believe that everybody has a part to play in jumping in and working against. So we thank you for being able to be a part of this today. Sorry that we couldn't be there in person, but hopefully if you're interested more in this issue, we'd be happy to be a resource for you. And we just are excited to be a partner with Brave Maker and a part of this Bobbi Jo film screening. Thanks.
Awesome.
Can't all be Bobbi Jo, but we can all do something, right? We can all be who God created us to be. So if you are inspired today and you want to make an impact in wherever you are watching today, whether it's Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas City, Florida, Bay Area, go to BAATC.org. And for Brent, how can people find you find your work, find the film. There's people who are asking if they, by the way, Questers, you still can watch it till 2:00 Pacific time, 5:00 Eastern Standard Time. Just email me, Tony@questnovado.com if you didn't get the link, and I'll make sure you get it. You guys will have 3 hours to watch it. Brent, where can people find you and find the work that you're doing?
They can find, I mean, if you want to get the film or share it with friends, you can get it on Amazon, Google, Apple Play, and most major platforms. We were lucky enough to get it on about every major platform where you can download and watch films. But it's this is a grassroots thing, and we didn't have a huge marketing budget, which a lot of big films do. So we're up against some pretty big films, and I just would love for people to pass this along and spread that experience, strength, and hope as much as possible. And that's how you can help in major ways. And then as far as finding us, if you want to see some other little works that I've done, it's at brent@brentjones.tv. But I think more than anything, go to the Bobbi Jo movie. It's www.thebobbijomovie.com.
Awesome. And that link is in the chat, so you can go. Please share that. Would you share that today? Share that on your social media. Share the BobbiJoMovie.com. That would be a great way that we can say thank you to Brent and thank you to Bobbi Jo. Thank you to the work of the Healing House and things that are doing. And you're all welcome for getting this space today. I'm grateful. I say thank you. Bobbi Jo, where can people find you if you are accessible in the interwebs?
Let's see, it's Healing House, www.healinghousekc.org. And that's our website, and it is Healing House. And, it took 1.5 years to name this place. And what I continue to see was that people were not only being healed physically, they were being healed spiritually. And so that's how we come up with the name. And God continues to heal people in Kansas City.
Right on, healinghousekc.org. Tell your friends, for those of you who are in the Missouri area, can spread the word. And thank you again to both of you. We are so grateful that we were able to host this today. The week after Easter was sort of a special time to give a gift to our community. I want to tell you that before we say goodbye to Brent and Bobbi Jo, that next week we're starting a new series on the book of Ruth. We are going to start with our partner and friend, Reverend Yolanda Norton, who is the founder of the Beyonce Mass. She's going to kick us off digging into this Old Testament book about a powerhouse woman who changed her family and had an experience with God through redeeming love. So I hope that you will all join us, and make sure that you come right here, same time, same place, 10 a.m. And we will be live in the building. So those of you who are in Marin County next week, please go to our Eventbrite link and get your ticket, because we are still at 50% capacity to continue to be safe with COVID guidelines. And if you want to give a gift today, if in any way that you were inspired because of the work that we're doing as a church called The Quest, you can Venmo us at We Are The Quest at Venmo, or you can go to our website at questnovado.com, sign up for our mailing list. You can give donations there. We appreciate all the support you do. We can't do this work without you. Thank you to the staff and to all of the church and the congregation for being a part of what we believe is our mission to explore God together, to create a safe and inclusive environment for all people to find and follow Jesus Christ. That's our hope. That's our mission. And so finally, again, thank you to Brent and Bobbi Jo. This was a riveting conversation. It'll exist on our YouTube and Facebook page forever. So please share it on the replay. We really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, Brent and Bobbi Jo.
Hey.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great Sunday, everybody. We'll see you soon. Peace. God loves you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.